In this episode, I'm going to be starting to pull the loom apart, so the 79 series loom, and then I'll start to take everything off the 80 series here, stripping it all back, ready to take the engine out. So let's get into it. First things first, I've got to pull the wiring loom for the 79 out. So I've got to go through, there's a couple of different looms with the 79, because obviously it's a bit more advanced and a bit more modern than the 80 series. There's an engine loom, so there's a loom that's already on the engine that runs in and around through all the through the engine itself. That plugs into the ECU, and it also plugs into this loom somewhere in here. So my job tonight is I'm going to be identifying what parts I need to keep and what parts I don't. I can cut out all of the vehicle stuff, so lights, wipers, you know, all the aircon stuff, everything like that, because I'm going to keep everything in the 80 series as it is. So effectively all I need to find in here is anything to do with power, to power up the ECU and power up the engine, and the dash loom as well, because I need the throttle, because it's an electronic throttle on this rather than a cable throttle. So yeah, that's what I'm going to attempt to do now, is just I'll grab my workshop manual, because it's got a whole heap of wiring diagrams in the back there, identify it via, you know, connectors and you know, trace wires and everything like that. And then hopefully I cut the right things and try and reduce this pile of wires. So let's get into it. Although it may not look like it, but I've actually made a bit of progress tonight, so that's pretty good. I've found that there's a lot of connectors here, right, that go into there. Cool. Basically, that harness there is ignition switch, but I'm going to be using the 80 series ignition switch anyway. All the instrument stalk, the indicator stalk and that. Wipers, so don't need any of that. And then instrument cluster, so the only thing that I'll need out of that is a tacho wire, which I'm going to use a Dakota digital converter, which I'll talk about later. So don't need any of that. Then that's all speaker, that all goes to the door. And then this is all stereo, cigarette lighter. Yeah, so that's all that can go away. So this is what I've got to go through now. So obviously I need to keep the diagnostic plug. That's basically the other part of the ignition switch. So all the wires go into there. So I'm just going to wire that up to the 80 series ignition switch. So that's fine. I've just got to pull out of those wires there. It's literally, because I'm running, there's an immobilizer on this as well, which is in that loom, but I'm getting the ECU coated to get rid of the immobilizer. So really I only need to have the sensor signals. So I've got to go through these wires here at some point, pull out each sensor, so like all the gauges on the dash work. So, you know, coolant, temp, oil pressure, etc., etc. So I'll have to work out what those ones are. Airbags, don't need that. And then, yeah, so then it's literally just now cutting this up, because the only thing that I need here, it's like stoplight switch, you know, the only thing I need on here is the pedal, because it's an electronic pedal. That's all lighting, I don't care about that. All that, I do need that, because that goes to the engine injector control modules. Some of it I can cut out, so like there's still headlight wiring on there, which I can cut all that off. But yeah, I need a bit of that. So yeah, so now I'm just going to be going through, working out what I can chop out. Obviously don't need the whole internal fuse panel. I might need only a handful of those to run certain things, but we'll see how I go with that. Doesn't look like it, but I've actually made pretty good progress tonight, so happy with that. All right, time to start pulling everything off the 80 series. So I've got it up on the hoist now. I'm just going to be starting to just methodically work through taking everything off, starting with the bull bar, the winch. I'll go underneath the back as well. I'll take the fuel out of the fuel tanks. I'll probably take the side steps off, and then I'll be starting to just pull the engine out. So I'll get this engine out, and then once the engine's out, I'll then need to go start disconnecting everything because I need to lift the cab off the chassis and that. So it's a bit of work involved. Let's get into it. All right, we're looking pretty good on here now. Tail shafts are out, exhaust is basically out. I'll leave that last little bit there. I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet, because with the 1HZ, it ran just a 3-inch straight through, so I had no muffler. But with the 1VD, I have to run a muffler and a cat as well. I think what we're doing is we're building an exhaust that's actually going to go down the passenger side here. And then, because the turbo is obviously on the passenger side here, and then we're going to loop it over the tail shaft and then catch it up to where the existing exhaust is. But anyway, that's down the track. The last thing I've got to do under here is just undo all the bell housing bolts. Everything's all disconnected, so I'm going to take the engine out. I think I'll take the engine out first. I'll leave the gearbox and the transfer in. I'll lift the cab up. I'm not sure on the sequencing of that yet. I'll have to think about it as I'm getting the engine out. But first things first, I'll get the engine out, and then, because I've got to disconnect all brake lines and everything like that. Morning, feeling a bit tired this morning. So big day yesterday, engine's out, most of the cab is unbolted, ready to lift up, and that's where I got to last night. I almost had it off, and then I go to lift it up and notice that the handbrake cable is still connected, of course. So I sort of gave it away. So yeah, feeling a bit tired, feeling a bit under the weather this morning, but anyway, we're back into it again. What I want to go through actually is to show you just how little connects a body to the chassis on an 80 series. We've got the clutch, right? So the clutch, which I've taken that off now because the slave cylinder is actually moving from the passenger side to the driver's side with the VDJ. So
Yeah, so that's connected. So that's connected to the body, to the chassis there. And then the brake lines, so the brake lines come down, they go down through there, across there, then they connect here to the chassis, and then they go from there down, yeah, wherever. So it's those ones there, the clutch, the steering column, so just disconnected the steering shaft, and then that's pretty much it there. And then there's 8 mounts. So there's 2 at the front here, and then there's 3 under the body, and then 1 at the back. In here is, yeah, so there's little caps in there. So 1, 2, and there's one in the front footwell as well. So there you do those, and then in the back, underneath here, I'm not going to jump up here and show you, but effectively that's the back section there, but they're hidden in this little section here, and they're hidden behind like a little cap like this. So yeah, it's just trying to work all that out, but yeah, so I've got most of the mounts off. So yeah, all I've got to do now is disconnect that brake cable, which I'll do that first thing this morning. And then the other thing as well is, because all the weight's still in the back, because I've still got my drawer system and my fridge and everything like that, whilst I've positioned it on the hoist, so a lot of the, you know, the arm is back here, all the weight's going to be still sitting towards the back. I've had to run, and I've done this with the EH as well, is I put a little tie down point there, just run a strap over the front of it to that. So at least it stops it from, so when it goes up, at least it stops it from carrying over like that, because obviously it can't go as far because the strap is holding it on the actual hoist. But there's still, the front of it's just going to be pretty wobbly, and the back of it's going to, so I'll just see how that runs as I'm going up slowly and just test it and see how much it rocks and rolls, and crack into this now and then be able to get the body up. And then I can then work on getting the gearbox out, and I mean, for nothing else, I'll be able to start pulling a lot of this interior or the engine based stuff out there anyway. So that's what success looks like. Yeah, we're all up. So I've got a lot of confidence in this one little strap here though. What are we rated to? 300 kilos. Hopefully there's not 300 kilos of weight at the back there. But yeah, so because, I mean, look, fresh air gap. So it just goes to show you how much weight's sitting at the back there, how out of balance it is. Hopefully you can hear me with the rain on the roof. It's raining at the moment. I probably won't go through and, yeah, I probably won't put a time lapse on the next bit, but I'm just basically now going to be going through, just cleaning and stripping the chassis back. What I've got to do, I've got to redo these lines. So I've got to have a think about that, because effectively where the new engine mounts go, they'll go in a similar spot, but I need to make a notch in the chassis there to clear the turbo, which basically means all of this needs to disappear, and then I need to brace up and everything. Anyway, we'll go through that probably next episode. So yeah, I'm just going to clean all this off now, give it a good degrease, and as you can see, I mean, the mud from Tassie, it just never goes away. Like, it's crazy. I mean, look at that big chunk there, you know. So yeah, you can certainly see that it gets used a bit. I'm actually going to remove that as well, because that's the spare wheel, or the standard spare wheel carrier, but because I run a rear bar, I don't need that, so I'm going to get rid of probably 40 kilos of weight there. But anyway, I think I'll wrap that episode up there. Next episode, we'll probably be starting to test fit up the engine, because I'll have all of the conversion parts by next episode, so that'll be pretty cool. So make sure, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, to keep track of the build, because the build's going to happen pretty quickly. Obviously I've got a 7-week deadline. I'm still going to keep the fortnightly schedule, but yeah, the build will progress pretty quickly. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.